Howdy YouTube, Eznix here with a little update video on my Ezarcher project. Over the last few days I've been spinning ISOs, testing and spinning and testing. And yesterday I released a testing ISO to highlight the fact that the glibc problem was fixed. The locale settings seem to be working as they should. And I wanted a test bed just to get out there so people know that the project is still going strong. I have another testing ISO uploaded today, the 6th of October 2022. It's the XFCE desktop, and the entire point of this build is to integrate or at least make available my initial grub-install automation attempt. Now, I realize the installing grub after grub is updated is potentially a very personal and complicated affair, or it can be. However, since this project is at its roots an attempt for me to build a system that I find useful, I decided to go ahead and include an grub-install script. Now, what I don't do is enable the Pacman hook to run it automatically. That you can make the decision of how to do that, or if you want to do that. But at least the tools are there. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If we open up the file manager, go to the project folder, and this is on every Ezarcher ISO. In scripts is now a grub-install sh script. This also gets installed in USR local bin, so it is available in the path of the system, so you don't have to specify the path. It will be found. Let's open up the script in Genie here. It's a very small script. Grab the stupid corner. There we go. Not that we really need the disclaimer. However, the actual code is right here, surrounded by my own attribution and disclaimer. And it's very simple code. It tests if the installation is on an EFI system. If it is, it runs grub-install for the correct target, 64-bit EFI, specifies the directory, the EFI directory. Let's make this a little bigger that way. Specifies the bootloader ID, basically the folder in which the grub components are installed, and then specifies a recheck after installation. After that command finishes, grub-mkconfig writes out a fresh grub CFG file. That's if you're on an EFI system. If you're not on an EFI system, then you must be on a legacy system. And here is where the code gets a little interesting. I select a name for a variable, and the variable is filled by the output of this command. Now this command finds the mount point of the root folder, and then cuts off the first 8 characters of that result, passing what's left to this variable. Then that variable is used in the construction of the grub install statement. Now I chose the root folder, or the root of the file system. The reason I did is because most of the time when I install a system, the root file system is on the same drive that grub would be installed to. In most of my cases, that would be SDA, the first hard drive. Now, you might ask, well, what if you're running on an NVMe drive? NVMe drives, I believe, will only work in EFI systems. So this shouldn't apply to an an NVMe drive. It would only apply to an SSD or an HD, which would get the device SD type, not NVMe type. So, one viewer I had, longtime viewer, suggested I use /boot, and that does work in some cases. It might even work better in some cases. However, let's open up a terminal here. Let's do an lsblk. And we'll make the terminal a little bigger. There we go. We can see we have a separate boot partition, a separate swap partition, our root partition, and our home partition. To me, this is a very standard way to set up my hard drive. Some people prefer to put everything in root. Some people prefer not to have a swap. Doesn't really matter. For my video, I'll show you why. So let's take this command here. Take the entire thing. Copy the command. Paste it. And the output is dev SDA. The first 8 characters of this. I'll show you that. No. We can do it this way. The first 8 characters. The full output is dev SDA3. I only really want that, so that's why I cut the result to the first 8 characters. Okay, now this would work fine no matter how many partitions you have on the drive. You could have 15 partitions. The result will still be the first 8 characters. If I do that command and specify boot, I still get SDA. Same result as if I do root only. Now, if I did not have a separate boot partition, I don't think it would find any result. A lot of people don't have a separate boot partition on a legacy system. So using root, I think, is the safest way to go on a legacy install, whether you have a separate boot or not. Now, if you have a separate boot partition on an entirely different drive, then you know what? This script is a little too simplistic for your use. Don't use it. Or modify it. What you can do, let's close that, is if you know the root, the mount point of boot, or the mount point where grub is installed, just replace this line, just cut out that entire line, replace this with your actual path, and you still wind up being able to use the script to automatically update grub on your system. That's pretty easy to do as well. So if you knew the path was dev SDB, just type it in. And you know what? There you go. Bob's your uncle. You're all set. Now this is a non-writable file, so I can't do that, so don't save. So that's why I chose the root file system for the test. Now, in docs, I provide an example of a Pacman hook to automate the running of that grub-install script. So let's take a look at this. So, to automate grub-install after an update with Pacman hook, create a file. So instructions how to create the file, instructions of what to put in the file, close and save the file. Once you do that, whenever Pacman upgrades grub, it will run your grub install script. Now, if you've customized the grub install script for your specific situation, then you know what? The combination of the hook and the script will make your life a bit easier. You won't have to remember to run grub install every time grub gets an update. It will do it for you. If you fall into one of the categories where the actual script itself works for you, and this could be, let's see, say you installed with Calamares and just selected automatic partitioning. This will work just fine. Say you installed and specified your own boot folder and did manual partitioning, boot partition. This would work fine if your boot partition and your root were on the same drive. If your boot and root are not on the same drive, then you know what? Hopefully you know what you're doing, and either use the script, modify it, or don't use it. That's up to you. For me, it helps to have it here because my use cases will always fall into a situation where this script will work. Let's see, is there anything else? That is the major thing. Now, let's shut this machine down here, because you might have a question. What if I used BTRFS as my file system and not something simple like ext4? So let's take a look at a system installed on a BTRFS root file system. So here we go. Let's boot her on up. We'll log in and we'll see the results. This might take a second or two. These are installed systems. They're not running live off the ISO. Very good. We'll move that back up in the corner. Let's pick a desktop background that's a little lighter. I like that one. That was nice. Okay, so let's open the terminal. Let's make it a little bigger. Let's open our script again. Let's open it with mousepad. That's fine. Either one works. Okay, let's do an lsblk. And we can see we are on, everything is on SDA1. We do have SDA2 as our swap. But we have home, var, varcache, and root. Now, let's take the same command here and run it. Look at that, we get SDA. Very nice. Even though we're on BTRFS. Now, if I did, let's just repeat that command, however, modify it with boot, I get no output. So if you've installed on a BTRFS file system without a separate boot partition, which will probably cover most people, you want the test, the find mount test, to be run against root and not boot. Now, just so you can see, let's not cut the output. And we get that. Now this is unusable as is to pass to grub-install. That's why cutting the first 8 characters doesn't matter what is after SDA, that won't be included. So BTRFS or ext4 doesn't affect the running of the script. The script always will grab the first 8 characters of the output of the find mount command. And the root file system turns out to be the safest all-around assumption. Now, your root might not be on your drive with grub installed. If that's the case, you know what? Hopefully you have enough savvy to know what you're doing, and you either won't run the script or modify it if you want to use it. So let's close that. And I thought I had one other thing to mention, but it slipped my mind. Will looking at any of this jog my memory here? It ain't helping, folks. I guess that's the end of the video. Hopefully this helps. You can go on SourceForge and grab my testing ISO for the XFC desktop. Also the scripts, the documentation, the guides, the templates have all been updated with templates with the new grub-install sh script, the instructions for creating the Pacman hook to run it automatically. Oh, I just remembered. I do include in my Ezarcher, and let's see if it'll be the root of the file system, etc. Default. Where's the default folder? I passed it right by. I do include a slightly customized grub file in etc default. And the reason I bring this up is that I include the line to not disable OS Prober. So if you have multiple operating systems and you are dual booting, multi-booting, and using the grub from Arch or Ezarcher to manage all of that, OS Prober is installed and is enabled. By saying disable equals false, that's enabling OS Prober. So this should be safe on multi-boot systems where the Ezarcher grub is in control of the boot process. So that's what I was hunting for in my memory just a moment ago. Now I can say, take care, stay safe. You'll see me in another one, folks. Bye-bye.